Hey guys, welcome back. So by the end of this video, we will have ourselves a simple plan for what we're going to be doing next. I'm going to be talking to you about how to manage your feelings around complexity and refactoring and when to hold off and when to dive in and make things better. So let's talk about it. Welcome back everybody, Ben back with you. So I want to start off by taking a little bit of a step back and dealing with some emotional issues. Well, it's a little more technical than that. But seriously, my experience right now with the project is I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated with the code because there's a lot of different classes going on. There's a lot of places where I feel like I could make improvements. So I just want to share my attitude towards when I'm going to do what in terms of taking control of this and how I'm feeling about it and how I'm going to look at it with you. So firstly, it's a natural problem at this stage in the project. That's the first thing I want to say. It's very important to distinguish between natural problems and unnatural problems. So the number of classes, for example, in your project over its lifetime is going to do something like this, an S-curve or logistic curve. So early on, we didn't have that many. We were just getting to grips with the very early stuff. And you may have noticed we went through a bit of a phase where we went from a handful of classes to about 10 or 15. And we're kind of here in the curve. It's actually going to get worse because think about it with the RPG. We've got all sorts to do. Level management. We've got all sorts of audio stuff to do. We've got particle effects to deal with. We've got character classes and damage, and it goes on and on and on. So we're about to enter a zone, which I would call a danger zone, where the number of classes, it goes up quite fast. And then we'll actually, at the end of the project, now by project, if it's a multiplayer online game and you're having to constantly patch it, well, that's a slightly different, longer project lifetime than a game that you're going to ship and only do minor patches to. So let's just talk about the date we release to the public being on the right-hand side here. The number of classes the rise in the number of classes will diminish, of course, as you get towards the end of the project. But right now, we're kind of entering a danger zone. So it's a natural problem, and we do want to get hold of it. But I'm just going to say not quite yet. We're actually going to make that subject of the next section. So let me just look at this a slightly different way with you. Let's clear off. In fact, I'll just use what I've already drawn here. So what we've done is we have dived from code to everything else. So code is above this red line and everything else is below the red line, just to make a very simple distinction. So Rick doesn't write much code or any code. So the line is if you're in Visual Studio, you're coding, otherwise it's everything else, all right? Just to keep it simple. And we've gone from some design to some code, back to some design and level building, back into code and so on. And we're kind of here now. Rick has just been doing some everything else with you, and we've about to dive back into the code, and I am a little bit unhappy with the state of the code. But I'm going to zoom out and say, hang on a minute. If you are a solo indie, then you have to do some coding and you have to do everything else, right? Including marketing and getting your game out and level design and play tuning, everything. And whether it's you or two of you or three of you, it's still the same deal. We are heading right now towards shipping the most basic demo of our game, a combat demo. And if we spend too long in code now, it's not going to actually make any difference. If we spend too long refactoring and improving our code, it's not going to make any difference on the surface to how the game demo ships. And because we're so close to it, and because I'm blocking Rick, or if you're working on your own, whenever you're coding, you are blocking everything else, just by simple exclusion. If you're in Visual Studio, you can't be doing something else, right? And you've got to zoom out and say what's most important here. Well, we'll talk about the way that I'm dealing with what's most important in a minute, and that's basically having a simple plan. So, but right now we're talking about the bigger picture of a smelly code, if you like. So just to finish that off, what I'm saying here is that I am about to get to a point where we're going to ship a demo. So I'm going to switch into crank through and get it done mode at this point, and I'm going to do some coding, dive into the editor, do some coding or whatever. I'm just going to get us to the point of the demo, all right? And then I'm going to reserve myself some time over here after we've shipped this demo to do a refactor. All right, and then we're going to be ready for that rise in complexity. But I'm just going to hold off on the refactor until then, okay? And I encourage you to just consider this again, that if you are coding, you're not doing anything else. And if you're not doing anything else, maybe anything else is the most important thing right now. Maybe getting the demo ready, especially when you're blocking another person, like I'm blocking Rick until I get the rest of the functionality done for this demo. But even if you don't have that other person, you're still blocking your players from having the opportunity to play your game. Now, it may be that you are not doing this for the money, you don't have a tight deadline, and that you want to just do your refactor now, fine. But be completely honest with yourself. If that's a way of putting off shipping, then please be aware of that, because it's very easy to put off shipping. A book I recommend is Linchpin by Seth Godin. I'll put that in the resources for you. And that's a great one to talk about the resistance and the lizard brain within. And that's all I've got to say on that, really, for the moment. Okay, so let's move on. So one of the ways to feel back in control of the project and to be clear about when you get this opportunity to do the big refactor you want to do is to basically have a plan. So here I've got our course design document, and what I've done is I've gone through Rick's stuff, I've gone through Rick's content, and I have written down a whole load of things. Now, they were very messy when I first wrote them down. They were just in any old order on a bit of paper, but crucially, I've pulled them together and made a little bit of a plan. So I've got a table of contents. Always a good idea to use heading levels in these documents, heading 1, heading 2. Make up a table of contents, and look, it's all about, in this section, here's the feedback on what I've seen recently. For you, this could be a recent playtest. And then what am I going to do in a few lumps, and then what's Rick going to do, and then the next section, then's my big refactor I'm kind of both looking forward to and dreading. So I took all of these items and then I started pulling them out into lumps. Basically, what we've got to do here is we've got to improve the projectiles. We can't see where they're coming from, so we need some sort of trail on them, a particle trail. We can't really see where the shooter direction is with the fast ones, because they blur at high speed. We need some blood splatters on impact. We need gamepad control working, and I need to do some other spit and polish, like solving some bugs. And I can do all of this without a major refactor. Rick would then come in and polish off, and then we've got it going. Then we need to worry about what the next thing is. We don't even know what the name of this next section is at this stage, but one of the good things about a Google Doc is we can start a discussion about that. And even if it's just you, it's going to be a really good idea to have a doc so that you can ask friends, family, and other people for suggestions. All right, so that is one of the things that I've done to make that feel better. And one of the places that you can get your to-dos from, and a good place to do that, is go to your task list by searching for to-do or however you want to do it in your IDE, and just look at the things you've promised yourself you're going to do. We were going to solve a fight between serializing these layer numbers and a constant. In fact, we can probably do something better with these layer numbers altogether. Okay, but right now, it doesn't matter, it works, right? We were going to consider deregistering on layer changed. Well, in C# we don't need to do that, so I'm going to decide right now that's a nice, diligent thing to consider, but we're not going to bother with that, so let's get rid of that. Another solve fight between serialize and const. Making process direct movement get called again, that is about gamepad control, so that will get done. That's already on my plan. Changing to property drawers, well, sure, would be nice, but wouldn't it be a good time to think about things like property drawers, more complex inspectors, all that stuff when we get to a little bit further down the line when we come to customize our character. To create this core combat moment of running through the village, we don't need to be having character leveling or anything else. We've just picked an experience in the middle of the game, a few levels in, and we don't need any of this stuff. So let's just hold back on that. And the very process of just going through my to-dos and making sure that I know which ones need doing before the next shipping to the next build, the next demo to the customers, or the next demo to your friends, I've got them all on this list. I already immediately feel much more in control. All right, so whether you're a control freak or not, it's always good to know where you're going and what you're doing. So I just wanted to give you this kind of softer touch lecture to make sure that I've imparted all those ideas. Right, I've got a little challenge for you guys, a pretty simple one. By the way, before I put you into the challenge, we will be revisiting this how complexity scales thing later. We'll be talking about it in the next section a lot more mathematically. We'll be talking about lines of communication between classes and how that's going to go ballistic and what we can do about that and how we can organize things. Got lots of nice complexity management rules to share with you. I'm gagging to share them with you, but I'm not going to share them with you now for the reasons we've mentioned. Okay, so here's your challenge. Write the next few weeks plan. Write a simple next steps plan, a bit like I had. Remember, you can start really messy with just bullet points and organize them as you think. Limit your scope to the next few weeks' work maximum. A Google Doc can work really well for sharing, but use whatever tool you like. And please share it with us on the community site and encourage discussion. And if you want real-time feedback, go over to the chat server, the Discord chat server, and ask for some feedback there. But please write up your post and sell the idea over on the forum first. And why not think about asking for a design or art partner at this stage in the project? Somebody, for every one of you that loves Rick's videos and hates mine because mine are really boring and technical and Rick's are really exciting and creative, there's going to be another one of you on the course that hates Rick's videos because they're kind of waffly and not really getting anything, any code written, and loves mine because we're writing codes, okay? It's nothing to do with right or wrong, it's just personalities. You may already find yourself splitting into groups. So go speak to other people, because for every one of you that hates, say, coding, there's somebody who loves it, and vice versa. For every one of you who hates the spreadsheet, somebody else loves it. Partner up if you possibly can. Write a really simple, clear proposition. Make it look like you've got a plan. The clearer your plan, the clearer your goal, the more you ask, the more likely you are to team up with somebody of equal quality, of equal caliber. So go ahead, do that, and I'll just recap my doc in a sec. So did you do it? I wonder if you're doing these challenges. If you slipped into the habit of not, please do them. That's where all the work happens. So, I mean, again, I've just made a simple doc like this, right? As far as I'm concerned, what's important to me is just this bit here. I can see in aggregate what I'm doing. I need to improve the projectiles, get some control, gamepad control, and do some particular spit and polish. And then within those chunks, I've got some things to do. So I feel good. I know what I'm doing next, and we're going to dive in and start that together. We're going to start with improving the projectiles. Okay, see you then.